is not a Q&A. That's the between the plies segment. That's next.
Oh, okay.
So prepare yourself. This is the last. This is the last one. This is going to bring flashbacks, like you said. We're kind of flashing back to when you worked at the shop. This is going to be flashbacks, and I have a specific story relating to this. When I was a customer before I worked at the shop, and
PTSD.
Evan was
You
working
gave me
at the
PTSD.
shop.
I'm sure I
you
did.
gave
I'm
me
sorry.
PTSD, and that is the story we will have today.
Okay.
Oh, it'll happen.
Sean stole my
Once-
bike.
Did he?
Yeah,
I
we'll
did.
go into that later.
That's right. I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll get
do that.
there.
Yeah.
Once we get to the between the ply section, that's where the whole thing goes off
That's
the
the name
rails.
of this episode. Sean stole my bike.
Sean stole my bike.
True story.
True story.
True story. Not yet. Last segment. Quick question. This is where we focus on the iconic questions of customers that they think is going to be a fast answer, and it takes us a lot longer to get through it.
Oh no.
Sometimes this is where there's a little bit of a sigh of like, oh boy, here we go. Or, well, I guess I'm not getting that other thing done today because this is going to be a long conversation, especially depending on who's asking the question. In this case, this can be a quick answer. And I think the better the salesman, the quicker the answer, because you can easily convince people to go one way or the other. But if you really want to be the nice guy and go through everything, which is my problem, I like to give everyone all of their options, which is not always the best case scenario. It can be a very, very long answer. So, quick question, guys. What drumhead should I use?
Yeah, see, this is where I go and just automatically recommend something. Well, first I'll ask, are you talking bass drum, tom-tom, snare drum heads? And if you're saying tom heads, I'm going to go with a double ply clear head. I think they sound the best, and I don't like to fuss too much about it. I'll go grab some Emperors or go grab some G2s, but I'll qualify it too and say, well, if we're talking tom heads, because that's different than snare and bass drum head. Well,
The question is as it was asked. That's all you get.
Yeah,
that's all you get.
That's all
I want to
get.
watch you squirm.
Okay, then I go grab some Remo Emperors and be done with it.
That's your quick answer.
That's my quick answer, yeah.
Well, and then the follow-up question. That's why this is a quick question, really, as part of the segment, is because then it's just like, well, what's the difference between this and that and that and that? And it can get wild. I'll say it here. I'll say it over and over again. There are too many drum heads and there are too many drumsticks.
Facts.
But we can't do anything about it, so we're forced to stock them all.
Yeah,
But that really complicates things.
Is the Ambassador 14 still the number one selling head?
I think so.
Yeah, 14-inch coated Ambassador
Yeah,
for
see,
snare
that
drum.
hasn't changed.
No,
And the 10 years since I've sold a drum head,
and we
That hasn't
probably
changed.
have 15 of them.
I'm
over
aware.
there.
I stocked all of this.
I know.
Got a lot of drum heads.
Yeah, anytime there's an inventory issue, we blame you.
Oh,
Good.
yeah, we always blame you.
Good.
Yeah. We always say, thanks a lot, Evan.
Happy,
Evan was
happy,
wrong
to,
again.
happy to be here.
Yeah,
Thank
It's
you.
working.
Good. Make it happen.
make it happen. Exactly.
happen.
But yeah, so what was your go-to, Evan, if someone's like, hey, I need new drum heads?
I was always like I was an Evans drum head guy. I mean, no pun intended there.
Okay.
And I always like the EC2 heads because you would sell somebody a single ply head and they'd come and be like, there's a lot of ringing in this. So what you do, you sell them the rings, the Aquarian
Yeah.
rings or the Remo rings, and dampen it down. And they're like, oh, it's too much. I'm like, okay, so try these. See how these work, the EC2s. And
Yeah.
I still have them on my heads to this day. They're what I have on my drums right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I have one on my drums, not my heads.
Yeah, I hear you. That's
Yeah.
what's on that's what was in our studio. There you go. There's
Yep.
an Evans EC2 right on the top
There it
from
is.
our last segment.
This is Evan's drum head of choice. This is also another one of my favorite drum heads. It's a good double ply head. And you're right, because a lot of times we're fixing the drums for the guys or gals or parents or whoever. So I want to feel confident that I'm going to throw a head on any drum and it's going to tune up well. That's why I like an Emperor or an EC2. This is going to tune up real well. It's going to make your drums sound real punchy and very well-rounded. EC2s are a great drum head, and I'm confident with any of those, definitely.
Yeah, and I think especially a lot of folks that we would field in store that would ask this, like guys who experiment with different heads and really get into the nerdiness of it. They know what they want. They're like, I need this, right? But when we're actually giving our input, if it's not just like an offhanded question, be like, oh yeah, have you used this before? No. Like, what do I do? Like, if it's that scenario, recommending something that's going to kind of rein in the tone of a drum, especially an entry level drum set, something that's double ply on top, something that's got the ring built into it, is going to just control the sound of that drum.
Yeah.
It's funny because we hear I don't want to say horror stories, but it is the Halloween episode. Horror stories of folks getting like the highest end drum set. They decide that they want this ply of this, and this, a ring on the top, not on the bottom. We're talking Pearl Masterworks, Mapex Design Lab kits, even reference kits, like anything high end. Tamastar Classic. They get something really, really nice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they are like, and before I put this thing together, I'm going to need to get a whole bunch of hydraulics on here.
And you're
You know what I
like,
mean?
oh
You're
my
like,
God.
you just
no.
paid so much for the sound that the drum makes, and you're muffling the sound away and controlling all those overtones that are good overtones. So I think that is definitely something to consider when, that's a catch-all. It'll get your drum sounding decent right out of the gate as long as you know how to tune it up, which we love showing people. But if you've got a high-end, if you're really into the details of what shells you're using and really getting into the nitty-gritty of the nerdiness of being obsessed with drums and the tonal differences of them, you rarely see those guys grabbing a catch-all type drum head. No, they're trying to for a specific sound. A lot of times, those kits will have ambassadors on it. Like Todd Zuckerman, he plays these beautiful Masterworks kits. But guess what he has on top and bottom?
Ambassadors.
Basic 10 mil single ply clear drum head.
Because the shell is doing the work of the tone of the drum. So you don't need to get a double ply.
Yep.
You don't need a muffle ring on to mask or disguise any kind of inconsistencies that the drum may have, because they're high-end, beautiful sounding drums right out of the gate.
Shout out to Todd too. When he did our clinic, he did all his own drums. Like he wanted us to do the heads,
yeah.
so we put the heads on. But then he was up there tuning everything, getting it where he wanted it to be.
Yeah, dialing them in, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and he made them phenomenal. That was the natural wood kit.
Sure. And then the
During the
second
first
time
clinic.
around, he played the Crystal Beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's when the
Yeah.
Crystal Beat came out, and he was like,
Right.
"Oh, I'll try it."
Yeah.
And that was amazing.
Yeah.
And we wanted him to play that to begin with, but we ordered it up and it was back ordered. So we ended up getting a reference, not a reference, that was the first time.
A Vision.
A Vision set. And the set that we wanted him to play originally, the Crystal Beat, came in a day before the drum clinic. So we're like,
Yeah.
we had a toss up. We're like, do we want him to play the Crystal Beat or do you want to play the Vision? He opted for the Crystal Beat. He had never played acrylic drums
That's
before.
awesome.
So he said, I'll play the Crystal Beat. It's fine. He rocked it. He killed it.
Yeah, and that's the difference. I know we're in a kind of side tangent here, but that's the difference between a really easy to work with drummer and someone who's not.
Right.
We've seen both, and we've interacted with people, heard a lot of stories. Typically, folks might not know this, when you have a drum clinic, like say a drum shop's hosting a drum clinic, like we used to do all the time, you're, depending on who it is, of course, you're expected to like kind of buy into it and hook them up. There might be a cost to get them associated with the company, but you might fly them in, you might give them a hotel for a night or two, whatever it might be in that regard. But then the gear, because they have endorsements, you got to get the stuff they play, right? And some guys are like, no, I need this, and this. Here's my rider. It all has to be exactly this stuff. And that can be the most expensive part of the entire thing. So you're this far into booking process. You know what I mean? You're like, yeah, we can cover a flight. We can do this and do that. And there's like, yeah, he won't play anything but reference. Like imagine if Todd Zuckerman said, I won't play anything except basically what I'm taking out on tour. Then those $20 tickets would not cover the cost of flying the guy in and everything. But here's a guy who's literally like, oh, I'll just play like a Vision, which is basically a Birch export. You know what I mean? That we just talked about. And it's just like, he's totally cool to go with the flow and play whatever.
Do you remember that first clinic?
Yeah.
The first 2 minutes, the pedal broke.
No, I don't.
Like,
Oh, yeah, I do remember.
Like
that.
it broke,
Yes,
broke.
I
Like the
remember.
pedal actually broke.
Yeah.
And yeah, I started on eliminator pedals and I never had
Yeah.
that problem. And then I got a Demon Drive and never had that problem. And here's Todd, brand new pedal out of the box,
Yeah.
broke. Like I forget exactly what happened.
And was it you? Did you run down and get him a new pedal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he's still playing, and I'm switching out his pedals while he's playing, and he doesn't miss a beat.
That's
it was.
amazing.
I hope there's a video of that. There has to be a video out there.
I'm
should
sure
be.
there's
I
something.
mean, it was.
When we moved here, we went through a lot of the DVDs and stuff, and Rick has a stash of the good
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
So we got to talk to
Yeah,
him.
we got to break the nostalgia days out. But
but
no,
yeah.
shout out to Todd, total professional, all the
Absolutely.
way around.
Absolutely
Anybody that's ever
cool
met
guy to
him.
hang out with too.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, in addition, which is a good combination to have. So speaking of stuff breaking, his pedal. When I broke my first drum head, first time I ever broke a drum head, I
were
came into the
devastated.
store.
How scared were you?
I
'Cause this
was
is the horror episode.
terrified. So as I came into the drum shop, I was terrified to find that my buddy Sean was not behind the counter. This other guy was behind the counter, Evan Shoebox.
Oh no,
He was there. He was the guy, right?
this guy.
And I had been in, Mr. Stay Puffed himself. And I'd been in a couple times, and I only worked with Sean, whatever. At this point, I was not this loudmouth, talking head, podcaster / drums, etc. extraordinaire that I am today.
I probably had earrings and a mohawk back then too.
Yes.
So we've grown up.
Oh, for sure.
Yes, it's a glow up.
I was the
He
shy
traded
kid.
the mohawk for a mustache.
Move this.
I just
this
moved it.
spike,
I just moved it
move
down.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I come in, and so I'd broken my first drum head, broken my first snare drum head, and I come in and I say, just being a coy little kid, basically, I come up to Evan and say, hey, and I brought I think I brought my whole drum in, probably. I probably didn't take the head off.
That's very common.
I probably brought my whole drum in, I don't know which part goes where. I'm just beginning, right? So I show up, and I broke that drum head, and I was like, I need to replace this. And then you were like, I got the thing for you. And this felt terrible when it broke, right?
Was it a Terry Bozzio drum head?
No. You will get there.
All right, because that's standing out to me for some reason.
Nope.
All right.
So you were questioning, you were basically rubbing dirt in the wound. You're like, that felt terrible when you broke it, didn't you? That's horrible, right? That's a horrible feeling. And I was like, yeah, it's a pretty bad feeling. Actually, my girlfriend was there at the time, and we were, of course, I invited her to band practice, which I talked about before. Horrible idea. Never do that. Snare
Worst
head broke
idea.
first song. Probably a good thing. Probably saved that relationship
For a
from
little
ending
bit.
right there that day.
Sure.
Anyway, I bring this drum head in. Evan's behind the counter, and he's like, man, that really sucks, doesn't it? I was like, yeah, it does. And he's like, working me. I didn't realize at the time that he was working me. He's like, I can sell you a drum head that will never break. And he pulls out the $60
yeah.
Evans hybrid head. This is what you need, kid.
I still have one of those on my snare drum at home as we speak.
Nice.
He's recommending stuff he uses. That's a
Yeah,
good
I
thing.
sell what I use.
But I remember being not knowing anything, and being like, is that how much snare heads cost? I'm like, it's $60, and I just broke this? I'm calculating to replace all my drum heads.
You're like, I'm going to quit playing drums
I'm
right
like,
now.
Yeah. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't afford this hobby. No, but of course, then you showed me other stuff, and I think I said I wanted a black head. You sold me an Onyx or something. I forget what it was.
There you go.
But yeah, I had to bring that up.
And here we are.
Here we are, and now we're talking about
That's right, because I don't remember that at all. But I remember.
Of course not.
Hey,
For
but
some reason, I was thinking of a Terry Bozzio drum head, and that's irrelevant.
speaking of which, do you remember when Adam came in and he did his video and we talked to him about drums, etc.? That was you and I, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
He made a video for his school.
Yeah,
and
and
it was supposed to be Rick.
That was where the whole
He
ball
came
got
in to
rolling.
interview Rick,
Mm-hmm.
and
Ninth
Rick
grade.
wasn't
I was in ninth
having
grade.
it.
Yep.
He was out painting or
I
something like
showed
that.
up at drums,
Oh, was he
etc.
mowing?
What?
Was he mowing or painting or something?
I showed up at drums, etc., and he's like, I'm here going to interview this guy. I picture in my head, I was real nervous. I brought my cousin with me to just because he knew cameras better than I did. It was my first, TV production nerd class, trying to film a production piece like you'd put on the news, and just for practice or whatever. It's my final project. And I show up expecting someone to be sitting there in a suit and tie, like you'd see on the news. And I ask him questions for sitting in a seat, and then it goes over to him and he answers, and it's all professional, blah, blah, But I came to drums, etc., where we are not like that. It is very chill. It's like this. It's Gavin, shop talk. So I show up, and he's out front, standing on the very top step of a step stool ladder, which is dangerous, hanging off of it. Literally, I've never seen someone sweat so much, dripping sweat in the paint, in the middle of painting the front window sills.
Just keep
What?
going.
Right?
Rick, hopefully you're not listening. But
No, I talked about this
Oh, it's
with
hysterical.
when he was here, on the podcast. But yeah, so he's just in the middle, 100% forgot I was coming. Now that I know him, 0% chance that he knew that this kid was coming to interview him that day.
And he played it all.
No, I was gonna say he
Completely
played it off.
didn't forget. He didn't bank it. He just said you have to bank it to forget it. He was just like, yeah, that sounds fine, and then he immediately forgot about it.
Immediately forgot about
Yeah.
me. So I show up, he's not there, and he's like, hey, the guys inside, they'll be much better on camera. They know everything I know. And I was like, okay. And he's like,
what a great plug.
Let's go in. Yeah.
Thanks, Rick.
I know, right? Yeah.
I appreciate that.
He's like,
put us
he's
over.
like, you
Yeah.
got it. Meanwhile, he's like, I just got rid of this annoying kid. I'm totally forgot about that. But super nice first impression. So I come in, I'm like, I'm here to do the thing. And you guys were like, oh, we'll be on camera? Let's do it, kid. And I interviewed you, both of you, and made this production piece about, what does drums, etc. have? Basically a commercial, a fake commercial for the shop. And go through everything. I interviewed both you guys. You've got the mohawk. Sean's got the blonde hair, tips. spiked
Frosted
up.
tips.
You guys look good.
Those
You
are boy
guys
band
look
days.
good.
Those are boy band days.
That was
Oh yeah, boy band days.
Boy band days.
Yeah. So I interviewed both of you, and literally I had just riveting questions, which I hope today is a little bit better. But at the time, my number one question, and then we'll divulge beyond this into more ridiculous stories. But I have to go through this because it's hilarious, and you're both in the room. My riveting question
no.
was this, just being like a kid. What brands do you carry?
Right.
That was like, it was stuff like that. And it's just like, oh, geez. But you guys gave an effort. And I remember editing it afterwards and being like, what is wrong with this guy? Not you, Sean.
Oh, thank God.
Me?
Because
What's wrong with me?
I would be like, what brands do you carry? And you would be like, yes, we carry Tama drums, Pearl drums. You're looking around the room, you're like, Yamaha, SKB cases. We got a whole bunch of snare drums, Meinl hand percussion, Latin percussion. This.
You could tell I was standing at the front counter just looking around. as
Exactly.
I'm telling you
That's
that.
the way you do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're just like making it up, like
making it up as I go.
Scanning, and then I get to Sean, and his was so funny. I had a million crossfades, which is kind of like when you're watching something that like kind of moves a little bit. Like you won't see it on this show because we don't edit anything, but it like moves a little bit. It's like basically cutting out ums and uhs and whatever. But I was doing it because Sean kept repeating himself. He'd be like, "Yeah, so we have what brands do you carry?" He'd be like, "Yeah, man, we got a ton of brands. We got Remo and Evans Drumheads, Pearl, Tama, Yamaha, Pearl, Meinl, Pearl. We've got SKB cases, Pearl, Tama, and then also Pearl drums and accessories, Pearl stands. We've got this, and he just went on, and I maybe got like 3 seconds of good usable footage out of that. And I remember having to stretch the whole production piece because he talked for 10 minutes but only said like 4 or 5 brands.
Right.
It was amazing.
So nothing much has changed.
Nothing much
basically.
has changed,
It's
yeah.
the same thing.
The amount of editing I should do this podcast versus no, but it was great. That's a great memory coming in. That was like one of my first memories of kind of being like a little behind the scenes. You guys showed me around a little bit, and I was like, this place is pretty cool. And then
I know. Look at it. He's running the place and signing the checks.
the rest is history.
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
So does that transition into how Sean stole my bike?
Yes, let's get into that. Let me at least hit
Yeah.
the button. We're gonna dive into Evan's backstory here with
Oh no, we're not.
at Drums Etc. for this
Oh, no, we're not.
Halloween episode. It's gonna be scary. Maybe not the scary you're thinking of. In between the